Hello.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 10th edition of the Frontier Seminar Series. Do you hear me clear? Do you hear me?
It's just a little muffled, but yes, we hear you. I hear you.
Okay, great, great. Yeah, there is someone who is using two gadgets, and so we are having the echo. So if you can just mute yourself while you're not speaking, that would be great. All right, my name is Bright Waro, and I am the convener of this seminar series. So I welcome you. This is the 10th edition, and we are hopeful that it will be full of insights, and you will take something out of this edition today. My co-convener is Emma Sob. Emma, can you say some greetings before I kick off?
Hello. Welcome, everyone. We will enjoy this fruitful session with Dr. Indigo. This is one of his most important seminar series of African Science Frontiers seminar series. You will enjoy and have a fruitful discussion. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Emma. And Prof. Ayo, are you there? Prof. Ayo, are you there to say some words to welcome the participants?
Yes, I'm there.
Okay, please, shut down.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry, the first time when you greeted, you muted me, so I kept requesting that I be unmuted. So it's just to say good evening, everyone. Welcome. And we are delighted to hear from the speaker of today. Thank you. Stay blessed.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Prof. Let me just, for technical reasons, let me check the moderator for today. Prof. Barude, can you speak? Let me see if I hear you clear. I don't see yet hear you. I don't hear you. Can you try to unmute yourself?
Hello, Prof. Good evening.
Yes, great. Now I hear you. Now I hear you.
All
so
right.
I will come back to you. So let me mute you for now, and I'll come back to you. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Great.
Thank you very much.
All right. So welcome everyone. We promise to start sharp because today is a big day. Every one of us expecting, and yes, Dr. Indigo, please go ahead.
Did you make me the host or something? Because I'm getting not all, but many of the requests to admit. And once I start speaking,
no, don't just forget about those. I make you co-host so that if there is anything you can control from your end, but don't mind the admittance. We are dealing with that from our end.
All right.
Yeah, but it's good for you to have the co-host, right? Since you're speaking. All right, so this is what we have today: playing the game. I think somebody was talking to me, and he was amazed why we use this terminology. But Dr. Indigo is fit and strong, and she knows what she's going to deal with here. So the topic remains playing the game, the unwritten rules of a successful scientist. So please, one thing Dr. Indigo has requested from me this evening is that she wants you to see her presentation as well as her picture. That would make her more comfortable. So to do that, you go to the top right of your Zoom. You have on just the edge there, you have view. Click it, and then you select speaker's view, and that means when she's sharing the screen, you can see her picture, and when For instance, I'm sharing my screen. You can see my slide and my picture at the same time. Okay, so do that. So as I said before, this is the 10th edition of the seminar series. We have come a long way. We've come a long way, and it has been really great to have you all attending and supporting this seminar series. If you are coming for the first time, just to briefly say that the African Science Frontiers Initiative is a platform for science capacity building in Africa. It's a platform for science capacity building in Africa. And we undertake training in career development. We offer courses. We have trainings in science leadership, science communication. We mentor African scientists, and our overarching goal is to contribute to Africa's path to development through science. Please, if you're not speaking, just mute yourself. Just mute yourself. Otherwise, we keep getting the echo there, and that since we are recording this, it's not helpful. All right. So, what is the vision of the African Science Frontiers Initiative? We have said this over and over, and that is to raise the next generation of African scientists with the right competencies to drive Africa's developmental and transformational agenda through innovative scientific research. And our mission are multifaceted to instill excellence in science through competence acquisition, capacity building, and career development, to organize and coordinate seminars and workshops that will bring to the fore conversations on African science and its role in Africa's development. We also want to create a platform that will equip African scientists with the skills they need to perform excellently towards African development. And we want to spearhead Africa's development through domain-based clusters that are targeted towards addressing the various sectors of the African economy. These are our aims. So we have seminars as we're having today, and this seminar has been running since January, and it's a 3-weekly seminar touching on various topics of interest and relevance to African science and African scientists. We have hands-on courses that we organize, several of those. I will come back a little bit more on that. We have also clear mentoring programs we undertake through our platform. And we also have a research angle in which we try to understand various issues going on with African scientists and see how we can bring those and raise conversations from them. And through that, we believe that we can work towards solutions in those areas. More of this will be coming, and we will be getting in touch with all of you and how you can contribute to these initiatives. In our trainings, we don't only train you or give you new skills. The ASFI, as we call it, provides opportunity for you to make new connections. During our trainings, we have collaborative projects through which Africans from different countries, from different disciplines can collaborate and make long-lasting relationships for their career. We also mentor you, and in this platform, our training is not just to give you skills you need to do your everyday work, but also to challenge you critically with critical perspectives, really critical perspectives to challenge what we do and see how we can critically model them towards Africa's development. ASFI started 1 year ago, and during the last 1 year, we have had very high-powered courses, 4 courses during this period. We have had over 1,600, close to 1,700 applicants that have applied to our trainings. And from these, we have trained 382 precisely African scientists from over 30 African countries. After each trainings we have had, we have established new set of mentees, which we follow up through various discussions, through various engagement to fine-tune what they have learned from those trainings. And I think this has been quite fruitful. And so for the 2021 seminar series, we have distinguished African sons and daughters from home and abroad who have been invited to present talks on various aspects that reflect capacity building of African science. So in the future, we have the names you can see on the screen, and then we're looking forward to these speakers, and this will cover things like funding of scientific research in Africa. We'll cover issues of science and media, science and the NGOs, what their contributions are in African science, African women in science, what is happening in African government in science, and so on and so forth. So we have very loaded topics, and today and the next 3 weeks we'll have another one. We'll be focusing on the unwritten rules. Dr. Indigo will be presenting to us. The African Science Frontiers Initiative was 1 year last month, and we celebrated the 1 year anniversary on the 26th of July, last Monday. And we set the tune and presented our little story of little beginnings, and of course looking into a big future. That is our goal. We want to make a very big future impact on African science. So please just take note that all recordings of our seminar series, recordings of our trainings, courses, everything is deposited on our YouTube channel. And as we go through the seminar series today, we'll be putting the website. Eman will be helping to put the website on the chat box. So please make use of your chat box. Use it to introduce yourself, connect, use it to ask questions, use it to get to know each other. We also have Frontiers newsletters, which will be coming on shortly, at least to reflect the 1 year anniversary of African Science Frontiers Initiative. And our goal is that at the end of this year, once we have gone through this seminar series, to compile the presentations into a book, and I think each of you can have access to that. In addition to the 3 weekly seminars we present, we have at the end of each quarter, 3 hours, 2 hours for the regular seminar, and 1 hour which we have dedicated to what we call My Career, My Story. And that is a part in which we invite distinguished, established and upcoming African scientists who come to give us story of their career pathway as a way of motivating those of us who are here, the young ones, of what others have gone through and lessons we can learn from that. So please do not plan to miss any of these seminar series. So the time is still 5 5 p.m. GMT. Each time we have the seminar series, and we have separate registration for each seminar session. At entry, everyone is muted, and then we control that to limit background noise as we record this. And once it comes to the question and answer time, we'll unmute people so that they can speak. But please, because we can't allow everybody to speak, given the time we have, when the speaker is speaking, put your question on the chat box. We'll collect them and we'll present them at the end of the presentation. And if there is need for someone to speak, we'll of course give opportunity when the time comes. So next year we are going to continue the seminar series, but we are going to take another direction. The direction is that this year we have focused on capacity building presentations. Next year, we want to really know what are African scientists doing in their various areas of expertise, in their various areas of research, as it relates to their science and African development. What impact are our research doing with regards to African development? So we want to collect African scientists across board and across all disciplines, and bring those who select to come forward to present to us what their research is and how is that contributing to African development. And we have created now a Google questionnaire in which we want to collect from you, from your field, to suggest to us those you think from your field have the agenda, research agenda that meets the criteria. So we'll send the link, and so please complete the questionnaire. I want to collect this, and they want to start in time to begin to make contact with them and invite them for next year. So the essence here is that what we are doing here will still continue next year, but taking another direction. All right, so I'll quickly introduce the moderator for today, and that is the person of Professor Najim Babarinde. He's a professor of physical chemistry and the current head of department at the Department of Chemical Sciences, Olabisi Onabanjo University, Agoyewoye in Nigeria. He got his BSc degree from the same university he's working now, but his postgraduate and PhD degrees from the University of Ibadan in Nigeria. He belongs to several professional organizations, and a few of those have been given, as you can see on your screen. His research interests cut across general physical chemistry, structural function, looking at relationships in hemoglobin, looking at the action of the ribose on cancer cells, and the utilization of biomass in bioremediation, and this includes other areas of interest he has. He has several awards from the institutional level to national level to international level with regards to research, teaching, as well as fellowship awards, travel awards, teaching awards, and so on and so forth. So Professor Babarinde is an accomplished researcher, and we are glad to have him here. He belongs to several editorial board of journals, and is a reviewer of for several journals. He has over 65 publications, scholarly journals. He supervises MSc degrees and PhD candidates. So I will end here and give Professor Babarinde the opportunity to introduce the speaker for today, and then we can take it from there. Professor Babarinde, you can unmute yourself now. You're muted. Unmute yourself.
Good day, everyone. Today, we are dealing with the topic, the unwritten rules of a successful scientist. And we have the privilege of having a speaker of outstanding performance in person of Dr. Indigo Triplets. She was born in Chicago, but she considers herself a global citizen. She possesses over 20 years of successfully owning and operating a multi-million-dollar business in the United States. She launched the 4D performance in Malaysia in 2016 after a perfect storm pushed her out of America and pulled her into Asia. She blends success, principles of the West with the wellness of philosophies of the East to help people create a mind, body, and spirit connection for sustainable success. Just as Muhammad Ali said, for your room here on earth, thus she honored her debt to humanity. Dr. Indigo is a mind space expert who helps people manage what occupies their space in their mind and provide solutions to situations and recurring issues that create obstacles or roadblocks for personally and professionally. As an author of 5 books, ranging from the book series Playing the Unwritten Rules to Dwelling Dragons, a mental health book used at healthcare facilities and by mental health professionals and clients. Her work is grounded in research as well as a lived experience. She is known for her innate gift to speak directly to your higher spirits in a language that is understood and embraced because it is the language of love, acceptance, and authenticity. She is hilariously honest and refreshingly blunt, giving a professional twist that captures the imagination and inspires the spirit. She's not for general consumption or for those who need their speaker to be politically correct. She's many things and simply cannot be placed in a box, but for grins and giggles. She's well known and respected for international work in women empowerment, leadership, corporate success, diversity, etc. She's passionate about whatever she does, but just as your passion isn't necessarily your purpose, our purpose is to help people heal themselves, relationships, damaged careers, and other areas of life through mental wellness. Therefore, join me today in welcoming Dr. Indigo Triplet, who will be presenting to us this seminar titled Playing the Game, the Unwritten Rules of a Successful Scientist. You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's get started. Give me a second to pull up my slides. Can you see my slides?
Yes, it's not showing clearly yet. Can you use the presentation mode? Then we can. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. Okay, so I'm excited about being here. When Bright asks me to do something, there's never a hesitation because I know he puts quality work together and brings some exceptional people to these seminars. So I'm excited about this. I have 1 hour to work with you. So allow me to say what I need and defer any judgment. Some things you're gonna be like, I'm not really sure about that. But here's what I need you to understand is that I've been doing speaking engagements around the game for, well, let's say since the 90s. And I get mixed feelings about it. Some people are furious that they have to play the game, and some people refuse to play the game. But then there's some people who are very appreciative of hearing about the game to the extent where I get letters from all around the world where people talk about being promoted or starting their own business and things like that, because the game is not talked about and the rules are not written, which is why it's called the unwritten rules. So I am Dr. Indigo, and we are going to be talking about playing the game, the unwritten rules of a successful scientist. Let me also say this, that I've invited several of my colleagues from different platforms in different relationships, in particular African Americans who are on this platform this evening. And they're coming from a variety of backgrounds. So yes, I will be speaking to you as scientists, but I'll also be speaking to us as Africans and people of the African diaspora. To give you a feel for what I do, first, let me just say I consider myself retired. I'm in Zanzibar right now, and I am just really enjoying myself in paradise. So I carved out some time to do this, but typically people know me as a success and mind wellness consultant. I spend a lot of time in the mind wellness space. I also do transformational coaching and growth capacity. At the end, I will try to put my information. I'll try to remember to scroll down to that so that you can get my information if you would like to talk to me personally. So just to give you a feel for the type of science organizations or STEM that I worked with, Google, for instance, Halliburton, NASA. When NASA was shutting down one of their space mission, they brought me in to help transition people from the space mission into other parts of NASA. CDC, which we're hearing more about now that we're dealing with COVID. Even the Army, the Army Corps of Engineers. So I worked with the engineer part. Or to give you an example, International SOS, for those of you who understand that they go out and do medical type of work around the world, around the globe. So I have a background steeped in working with people who are in the STEM arena. So I will be able to bring to you some examples and things that I've seen along the way. But let me just tell you why the game. Here are 3 books that I've written in this 3-part series. The first one is called Playing by the Unwritten Rules, Moving from the Middle to the Top. The second one, and the first one is more about your career management, while the second one is Playing by the Unwritten Rules, from a job defense to a career offense. What's interesting about that one is that many of us, and I want you to think about yourself, many of us go home tired. We may start the day off feeling great, but by the time we end, we are tired because we play defense most of the time. Now, I have never seen a football game that you are familiar with, being here in Africa or England and so forth. I understand football from the American version. And most of the games that come out of America is divided into offense and defense. Offense is when you're trying to make score, when you're trying to get points. Defense is defending your whatever, right? Your basket, your goal, and so forth. So what's interesting is that many of us play defense in our career, defending what we've said, defending our thoughts, defending our project, defending. And if you have a PhD, to get that PhD, you knew we had to defend, right? And defending is very tiresome. So that book is about how do you play the offense? How do you get points? How do you move up? And then the last book, Playing by the Unwritten Rules 3, is Here's What I Think, This Is What I Know. I wrote that book while I was over in Asia. It was interesting for those of you who know Procter & Gamble, which has a very, they're steeped in science as well because of their products. They bought 500 of the books before it was even printed. I just shared with them what it was going to be about. They got 500 of them, asked me to come over to Singapore and talk about it. Because in that book, I talk more about my journey. I talk more about things that people don't talk about. For instance, forgiveness. You know, some people carry things for years. that promotion they didn't get, where they were betrayed on a project and things, or they didn't get published. And so they carry that for years. So one chapter is just about forgiveness and letting go. So I take a very unique approach in the last book. So with 20 plus years of owning businesses and working in the HR space in a variety of industry, I have seen the true nature of people when they play the game. Now, some people play with integrity, while others not so much. But at the end of the day, we're in the same game. Whether you're playing with integrity and they're not, you're in the same game. And so you're going to have to understand, what is your game? How are you going to play your game? And you got to be consistent about it. And then we're exploring two aspects over the next two sessions. One is career management, which I'll take things out of moving from the middle to the top. And you'll see some of that tonight. Well, it's nighttime for me. It's 8 o'clock where I am. And for those of you back in the US, I know it's morning time for you, or at least afternoon. And then we'll be talking about development as well. Now, what I want you to understand is that playing the game is not an option. When you pull up in your car, get out of your car, go into the building, game is on. It's a game being played. And what is very difficult for us of the African diaspora, especially scientists or people in the STEM, is that you believe if you work hard enough, you will be noticed. If you play by the rules, you'll be okay. And it doesn't work like that. That's not how the game works. The game is not designed that way. The only way to have upward mobility, now check this out, upward mobility coupled with sustainability in your career is to play the game, and to play the game by the unwritten rules. The things that are not written down anywhere. You can't find it in any book. And here you have this guy looking through the file cabinet, and he's saying, does anyone know where we keep the unwritten rules? They're not written. And that's why it makes it so tough, because what we've learned along the way is to play by the rules. But the rules were, the game to win was not about what is written. The game is about the culture or the spirit of organization. So let me be very clear with you. A lot of people hate playing the game because they think the game is not fair. The game is hidden. The game is something that is not designed for us. It has nothing to do with us. The game is played in every organization, regardless of if you're at a predominantly Caucasian organization or an African American organization. When I owned my own company, there were unwritten rules. So unwritten rules and how to play the game is often eludes people of the African diaspora, especially, like I said, people within STEM. Since there is no handbook, you are used to ticking boxes. You know, if you do this, this will happen. You're used to consequences, right? You're used to being able to see things for how they should be or what is proven. And the unwritten rules is very often can't prove it. And I'll give you an example a little bit later. So let me share this to bring context. You can be a superstar in an organization, and I'm sure you've seen it, if not with yourself, with someone else. A superstar, everyone loves them. They're moving up, right? But then they're on the 7th floor, making things happen. But then they go to the 14th floor and fail miserably. And you're like, why? Because same organization that has an employee handbook, but each floor has different rules, because those rules are based on who's leading that department. So while they may realize that they need to come in at 9 o'clock and they get off at 5 on the 7th floor, what they don't realize is that that supervisor, that leader wants you to be in at 7 a.m. and stay until 7 p.m. See, that's not in the employee handbook. that's not something that you may realize. So you're showing up on time and then you're leaving on time, and that supervisor is wondering what's wrong with them. They're not they're not clocking in the hours like the rest of us. So next thing you know, they're booted out. And no one can understand because they were a superstar where they were, which is why they moved up. So what happens very often is that the rules are elusive, they're fluid, and dependent upon various circumstances that you may not be aware of. So as I'm going, I want you to forgive that I'm going to cough every now and then because, as some of you know, I had COVID and I'm still getting over it. And I don't want to I want to make sure you don't get it. So I'm not going to cough where you can get it. But every
sorry.
now and then you're going to see.
Yeah, sorry, Dr. Indigo. Some said that your voice gets low and high. So if you can focus on the volume of your computer, I think that will help.
Okay. And also it's because I'll sit back. So I'll try to stay forward.
Yeah, it's better now. It's better now. Mm.
So the first thing I want to talk about is who's managing your career? Who's managing your career? If you can put it over in the chat box, that would be great. Bright, are you able to see if they put some things there?
Yes, I'm monitoring that.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Who's managing your career? I just want to hear from you. Who's making sure you get the promotion that you deserve? Who's watching to see that you're doing the things that you need to do to be where you want to be? Who's managing your career? What are some of the things that's coming up, Bright?
I'm still expecting them. No one. I see one says myself. I'm self-employed. My colleagues. I'm responsible for managing my career. Only myself.
Okay.
Myself.
You. Those who say their boss, no, your boss is not managing your career. In fact, most of your bosses can't manage their own career. No one went to school on how to manage careers. I don't know anybody who's done that. As a matter of fact, if you go back to your high school counselor, most of them don't even know how to manage their career. And I'm not trying to be funny, but they probably wouldn't be high school counselors if they managed their career. Most of them fell into that through happenstance. So people do not learn how to manage career. They learn how to do a good job and hope. And hope is not a strategy. So you are the only person who's really accountable to you managing your career, and you can ask for assistance from your boss, your supervisor, and in tandem, share with them what you like to accomplish and ask for their support in you managing your career. But you are solely responsible for managing your career. And the same for developing your career. And what I mean by developing your career is putting things in place to get the things you need to move up, to manage your career. See, managing is looking at certain opportunities, having the relationship with your boss, your supervisor. If you are self-employed, it's making sure that your clients are repeat, are supporting you, are helping you, and so forth. And we'll be talking about that a little bit more. But developing is totally different. And see, a lot of people think managing and developing are synonymous, and they're not. They are entirely different, although they overlap. Make sense? So what is your up? As we can see, this lady is on her way up. What is your up? And this is why many people do not achieve what they want to achieve, because they don't know how to define their own success. What is your definition of success? See, some of you will define success by being published in journals, but in some places, that's part of your of managing your career, that you have to be published in journals. So that doesn't define your success. That's part of your game of being in journals. So you have to understand, what is your up? What is it that's going to allow you to know that you're successful? If you don't know what that is, you will have a very difficult time attaining it. Now, you may happen to fall over it, but even when you fall over it, you won't recognize it for what it is. So be clear on what defines your success. For some, maybe an entrepreneur with several employees. You know, many years ago, I had this mentor, Caucasian guy who's very, very successful. In fact, mostly all my mentors were men, and most of my clients were women. So that's a totally different story that we may not have time to get into, but if we do at some point, I'll share with you. So my mentor at this time, I said, how will I know I'm a success? And he said, when people want to work for you. And I thought that was very interesting. So as I started growing, you know, I had 3 people and I was like, yeah, I'm on my way to success. And then I had 100 people working for me, and I had about 500 consultants because my footprint was big. I had a multi-million-dollar business. So having a multi-million-dollar business, I had multi-million-dollar contracts all around the United States, to include Guam, Puerto Rico, Hawaii, Alaska. So I would send consultants all over the globe to manage or be a part of these big contracts. So when I had 100 employees, my definition for success was no longer having people work for me. So, one, understand what or how are you defining success? And then understand that even that definition is going to change because things in your life will change. Like for me right now, what's funny is I play a video. It's called, Why Do We Make Life So Hard? And this video talks about what is success for this man. And I have pretty much adopted that. So when people talk to me, I tell them I'm retired and I only take certain projects. I don't do everything for everybody anymore. I do what I want to do. And when I do it because I want to do it, not because I need to do it. So when I look at success for me, it's doing what I want to do, when I want to do it, with who I want to do it with. That's success for me. When I have to take a project that doesn't edify me or I'm not happy about it, that's not success. So I don't do it. I was talking to an attorney and I said to him, I want you to give me your rate, write it down. So I slid a piece of paper over, he wrote it down. I said, now before you slide that to me, I want you to make sure that you're happy with this because I only work with happy money. I want to be happy to pay you and I want you to be happy to receive it. That's part of my success story. I don't work with unhappy. See, some of you are taking projects and you're not happy with it. You're doing things and you're not happy with it. That does not define success. But if that's success for you, hey, go for it. So I want you to take a moment and write down, what is your up? What will define your success? What does it look like? Does it mean more clients? Does it mean less clients that pay more? Does it mean working for an organization that has the image? Like if you go back and look at the types of clients I work for, I didn't work with too much city or small companies and things like that. My dossiers say things like the CIA, Central Intelligence, FBI, Halliburton, NASA. That's because that's how I define success, because I'm very image driven, but you may not be. You may like working with nonprofits or NGOs because you're about giving. That's fine, but know what it is. So I'm gonna be quiet for a moment so that you will write this down. What is your up? Now, what's interesting about the arrow and about your up is that your moral compass will be set to it. When you know what is your up, you will be aligned with what comes your way. If something comes your way and it's over here, you'll know that's not for you because it won't be in alignment with who you are and who you want to be. So really spend time when we get off of this, spending time looking at what is your up. Any thoughts, questions before I move on? Okay. So.
It seems a hard question, Dr. Indigo. Nobody has put anything down there.
Okay. Okay. You are already in the game. So play to win. Everybody's playing. Some people just aren't playing well. Some people are sitting the bench. I want you to think about basketball, right? I can't stand all these bugs that are coming around. So forgive me if you see me hit somebody, hit one of these bugs, because I don't want to get bit. But let's think about basketball. So in basketball, everybody's not on the court. Some people are sitting the bench. Some people will never get in the game, but they're on the team, aren't they? They're in the game, but they're not on the court. Their game may be supporting people, giving people a high five, and so forth. Are they being paid the same as everybody that's out there on the actual board? On the floor? No, they're not. Are they wearing the jersey? Yes, they are. So they're in the game. Now, let me share something with you. And I think I talk about this in the first book. And that is, there's a movie called, it's about Manigoat. I can't think of the name. It's in the book. But let me give you the gist of it. Basically, there's this guy that it starts off with Wilt Chamberlain. Now, some of you are too young to know who Wilt Chamberlain is, but some of you know exactly who Wilt Chamberlain is. Abdul-Jabbar. And so he's retiring from basketball. So he's sitting out on the basketball court where they bring out a big wooden chair because he's a big guy. And he's just sitting there rocking. And they ask him in an interview, who was the most formidable component you ever had out on the court? And Abdul-Jabbar said, the GOAT, Manigoat. And they were like, who's that? Nobody ever heard of Manigoat. Manigoat used to play against Wilt Chamberlain and Abdul-Jabbar and all these places or people when he was young in high school. So whatever happened to him is what this movie is about. And what they said, or what the movie actually showed, was that not only was he good with basketball, but he was also good with track. He could put a quarter on top of the basketball rim and he could run and take the quarter. So he was a high jumper. So this Caucasian track coach came to him and said, hey, Manigoat, you are really good. I need you on my track team. If you are on my track team, we'll take state. And Manigoat said, Coach, I don't do track. I'm a basketball player. And the coach said again, look, you don't have to come to practice. All you have to do is go to our meets and do what you do. And Manigoat again said, Coach, I don't play track. I just do basketball. And the coach looked at him and he said, you know what's wrong with you people? He's talking about people of the African diaspora. He said, you know what's wrong with you people? You know how to play games, but you don't know how to play the game. And from that point, the coach had it out for him, didn't help him. If this was a scientist, the coach didn't get his articles published. The coach didn't put him on those prime projects. The coach didn't acknowledge him. He didn't get to go to conferences and speak. See what I'm saying? He didn't have to show up. He just had to play the game, but he wasn't willing to play the game. And many of us are not willing to play the game, although we are already in the game. We don't play to win. We got to become more strategic. So let me tell you why rules are often unwritten. You see this picture here is one of my favorite pictures. It's of Noah's Ark. And on this ark, you have all the animals, but you also have this woodpecker. The woodpecker is doing what woodpeckers do. He's putting holes in the ark. And basically, the cartoon has another thing, I don't think it's showing up on here, where it says, some people simply just don't belong. He didn't belong on the ark. He wasn't bad. He was doing what woodpeckers do, but he had to go. So why rules are often unwritten is because, one, they're biased. Sometimes they serve one group over another. Like, for instance, I'll give my company as an example. I was very biased towards people who have been in leadership position. I wanted them on my team. I was very biased towards people who served in the military because I was a Marine. So I was very biased. Does it make it wrong? Absolutely not. You're going to have some companies who will want scientists who have worked in higher ed because they are a research lab that have a lot of people who want to get published. So they want people who come from higher education. So it's biased. Prejudice. Some unwritten rules are prejudice, meaning they want certain people. Now, in Africa, it may be prejudice against people who are not of the African diaspora. If you're in America, it may be prejudice against people who are not Caucasian. So prejudice is a reason why some rules are unwritten. Now, let me say this. I am not saying unwritten rules are right. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that they exist, that they are real. And so I'm sharing with you why they're unwritten so that you can play to win if you only understood what's going on. I had a guy come up to me after one of my sessions, and what's interesting, this organization was the organization that oversees all American governmental entities. They are like the watchdog of government. So they're all about legality and stuff like that. And so I did this session. It was a 3-hour session for them. And this guy came up to me and said, you should be shamed talking about how we, people of color, should play the game. And I said, what's your option? What's your option? You all aren't getting promoted in this organization. And I've seen the report that came back on this organization that said people of color don't know how to play the game. They didn't know the unwritten rules. It's actually written that people of color didn't understand the unwritten rule. So that's why they asked me to come and speak. So I said, here's the option. I cannot tell you. You could keep failing miserably, or I can tell you, and you can make an intelligent decision on whether you're going to play the game or not. It's up to you. I'm just the messenger. I didn't make up these rules. I didn't even say I like them. Hell, I don't like them. There's games I had to play that were terribly, terribly wrong, but they exist. Another reason why unwritten rules exist is because sometimes they're illegal. They can't put them in writing. And I'll give you an example. In America, there's a company that once was called Arthur Andersen, big consulting firm. Then there was a company called Enron. Arthur Andersen would go to Enron to do their bookkeeping, their accounting. And everyone knew that you had to shred the documents after you went and did your audit. Now, what's interesting is that it was not written in any rules. So there are people in one company that went to jail because they had things written and that was about legality, while Arthur Andersen didn't have it written. It was just known that these accountants had to shred documents. So when they went and did this thorough background, you can Google all this, it's all on Google. When they went and did this thorough background, they asked in the investigation, why did you shred the documents? And all of them said it was a known understanding that that's what we needed to do. Now, what's interesting is that for Enron, people went to jail. For Arthur Andersen, they had to close down, but no one got jail time. So sometimes it's illegal. Again, I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying it's real. The other reason is isms. Ageism, racism, genderism, sexism. I'll give you an example. I was working in this organization and they used to call all the young people kids. That's genderism. You know, some people don't like working with millennials. That's isms. But there are people that when you get a certain age, it's difficult to find a job. Let's face it. Once you're over 50, would you agree that it's difficult to find a job? Very hard, because they want people who are younger, but they don't want people who are too young. So that's gender, that's ageism. Now, would that be written in a handbook? Absolutely not. Will it be written in a handbook that if someone is young, don't give them a prime project? Absolutely not. Would it be written in a handbook that if you're of a certain age, you can't be a part of the newscast? You notice on the newscast, how many people do you see with gray hair? Not very many. That's ageism, because they want people to look young. So you will not find that in an employee handbook. Personal, I'll give you a personal thing in my company. So if you notice, I don't have any tattoos. I want one, I just don't know where, right? So I want one, but when I had my company in America that I started in 1995, because I was working with like the Office of Naval Research, you know, I've already spouted out some of the companies I work for. Let me give you one in particular, the Pentagon. Many of you heard of the Pentagon, but many of you don't really probably understand the Pentagon. The Pentagon holds all of our military. Every military branch is housed pretty much in the Pentagon. So in the Pentagon is where you see all the generals, right? And so I was fortunate enough to have the Pentagon as one of my clients. Very rare. When I would show up at the Pentagon, I would be one of the youngest, a woman of the African diaspora, and a woman. While I sat to I would wait for my client to come pick me up, to take me where I needed to go. I would look around the room. Guess what I would find? Older Caucasian men. What do you think they were probably talking about? They were probably talking about weapons, and I was talking about human relations. Now, if I show up and I have a tattoo saying, I love my boo, I love my man, or mama, or my babies, how serious do you think they would take me at the Pentagon? How serious do you think they would take my leaders or any of my people who would go to present to them? They wouldn't take them serious at all, because you won't find a general on the news talking about we invaded this country and they have a tattoo. You're not going to see it. So my personal preference, see the bottom one, preference, is that you could not be hired in a leadership position in my company if you had a visible tattoo. Now, was it in my employee handbook? Absolutely not. I don't have the right to tell somebody what they can put on their body, but I do have the right to not hire you and put you in front of my client. See, if I'm getting a multi-million-dollar contract, let's just say 3 million. No, let's just go for a contract that I had was 18 million. You can Google it. Google the $18 million woman, Indigo. That was me. Now, if I got an $18 million contract, you expect certain things from me. You expect me to show up in a certain way and to perform in a certain way. That's me playing the game. Now, when I get off work, I was totally different. I had a Jeep. I would wear a bandana. I was just free to be whatever I wanted to be. But when I showed up, I looked the way they wanted me to look. I played the game. And that's what it's about. If you want to play the game, because it's a choice. You don't have to play to win, but you're going to be in the game. And then you have cultural. That's where it's about, let's talk about Africa. There are just certain cultural things that happen here that we wouldn't do in America. Is it wrong? Not necessarily. Is it right? Not necessarily. It just is. So you have to understand it when you go into an organization that this is certain cultures that they have. Any thoughts? Any questions before I move on? I'm looking at my time. Okay, I got 20 minutes. Okay, so now that I laid down the groundwork about the game and why the rules are unwritten, let's talk about what's in my first book, which is normal distribution. Now, you being scientists, you understand normal distribution. If you buy into that theory, which I buy into that theory, it says basically 10 to 15% of anything that we measure will be at the bottom. 10 to 15% will be at the top. And then the bulk of whatever we're measuring will be in the middle. So if I were to look at us, how many people are on the platform today? Bright.
Currently, we have 107. So there are some network issues, some drop and coming again. So around 107 have now.
Okay, so 107. So if we're saying 100 overall, right? That would mean 10% of you are at the bottom of this group. 10% of you are at the top. Then the rest of you are in the middle. Now, what does that mean? Let's just take NASA. You don't get to be a NASA astronaut if you're not smart. But is everybody at the top? No, everybody can't be at the top. Let's use the Olympic as an example, because a lot of people have a hard time wrapping their head around this concept. Okay, let's just say track and field. If we have a race and there's 10 of us in the race, will everybody cross the line at the same time? No. But all 10 of those people that came from different countries were the best of the best for their country, right? And so all of them on the starting blocks are the best of the best. They are all superstars. But can they all come in first? No. If it's 10 of them, one is going to cross the line dead first. No debate. Then there's going to be somebody really, really close. Then the bulk of the people are going to come in after that. And then there's going to be one or two that's going to come in last, right? We see it every night on Olympics. That's normal distribution. Normal distribution is when you're in high school and the teacher gives you a pop quiz and says, this is a pop quiz, and someone says, is this going to be on a curve? Because see, a curve meant I may not be the smartest, but I'm not the dumbest. I know that if I can just get in the middle, I'll pass the test. Now, what does that mean for you all on this platform? What it means is that if it's 100 of you, you all are not at the top. So what's going to separate you? You all need to get, for those of your scientists, and many of you scientists all need to get published. You all need to do a good job. You all need to reach your KPIs, right? Everybody needs to do that. So what's going to separate you? What separates you is how you play the game. That's what separates you. Let's just say that you're not scientists. Let's just say we're all in a company, whatever it is. So I want you to think about your company right now or your organization. All things being considered equal. Let's just say you're a resort, okay? So you have all these resorts. 10 to 15% are gonna be like, ugh, don't wanna stay there. 10 to 15% are gonna be posh. Oh my God, I would love to be there. Then the rest is in the middle. So I want you to think about your organization. I want you to think about you. What's separating you? What's causing you to be out front? What's causing you to be noticed because you're at the top? All things being considered equal, keep this in mind. If we're all in the Olympics, we're already the best. But what's going to allow me, what's going to allow you to cross the line before everyone else? Things like putting in the time, exercising, whatever that might mean for your industry, making sure you're visible, making sure you have the coach ear, making sure the coach spend time with you. See what I'm saying? There are things that you need. So in the little time that we have left, I want to share with you this concept, driving your career with cars. So if you think about a racetrack, and that's a truly an American sport, NASA, I can't remember. NASCAR, there you go. So NASCAR is an American concept where these good old boys ride their car around the track over and over. Now, what's interesting is that these cars are worth millions of dollars. And so when they're going around, they have a thing called a pit stop. Now, what the pit stop is, you have a crew of people that come out to care for your car. You see these people in the picture? These are part of the pit crew. It's raining. They're making sure that their car is taken care of. They're going out to cover the car, but they're doing more than that. When the car is going around, it stops into the pit crew or in the pit stop. And when they do, there's 4 people that come out and take care of the wheels. Now, they don't look and say, oh, only one wheel is having a problem. They change all the wheels at the same time to make sure that that car doesn't get a flat. Now, if that car get a flat, it's going to spin out of control and possibly the person is going to die, the driver, but they're definitely not going to win the race. So you have your 4 people who care for you, make sure that you win your race. So in your career, you need to make sure you have the first thing, your colleagues. Now, who are colleagues? If you're a scientist, it's the other scientists around you. It's the people who work with you. They keep you in the loop. They make sure you know what's going on. They tell you what's in the grapevine. For those of you who don't know, I don't know if you have that concept over here or not, but the grapevine is hearing about what's happening. You know, I would have colleagues who would come and tell me, you know, so-and-so is getting fired. And because they're getting fired, there's going to be a job opening. So I would keep my ears open to hearing about what was going on in the organization. That's what colleagues do. And what you do when you build the relationship with your colleagues is that you can't form cliques. You see, there's no C for cliques. And what I mean by that is you don't have just certain people you like to hang out with, that you like to take to lunch, that you like having coffee with. No. When I was in an institution or working in a formal type of organization before I had my own company, I would stop by different people's desks all the time and say, hey, take a walk with me. Let's grab some coffee. And I would just talk to them informally, off the record. People will share things with me. Learn to spend time with different people. Now, what's interesting for people of the African diaspora, they often feel like, I don't need to go to lunch with people. I need to stay at my desk and work. That's not going to get you to the next level. It's not. You need to start pulling people, having lunch with people, even when they're not talking about anything, but they're at lunch, because you're forming relationships and you never know who may see you and recognize that, you know what, I think they should be in my department. The next one is advocates. Advocates are people who watch out for you. They look out for you. They are not your mentor. Don't confuse a mentor with an advocate. A mentor is there to help develop you. An advocate is there to advocate, advance. If you can't remember advocate, think of advance. They're there to advance you. So how do you find advocates? Advocates find you. You don't get to go to someone and say, hey, would you advocate for me? It doesn't work like that. Now you can go to a mentor and say, will you mentor me? But an advocate needs to see you. You need to become visible where they see you, they take an interest in you, and they want to support you. So I would have advocates. Now, what's interesting about an advocate, they speak up for you even when you're not in the room. So you have to keep advocates aware of what you're doing. And when they make themselves known to you that I'm going to advocate for you, then you share with them your resume, you share with them your goals, you share with them what you want to do, and they start looking at opportunities. Because the way it works is when they advocate for you, you're kind of like they're betting on you. You're like their horse. And so when they advocate, they know that you're going to do well. And when you do well, they look good because they may be advocating to get you in a position to come into their department. You don't know. So make sure that you volunteer on projects. You got to make sure that you speak at conferences or on panels. You do things so that people see you. They cannot see you if you're sitting in your room or in your office just writing or doing your work. So make sure you're seen by advocates. Then you have resources. Resources are people who can get you what you want. Now, think about it like this. When I was in the military, I didn't have any rank. I was very low ranking. And I would have, when I would get to a base, there were two people I would try to have a relationship with. One was what we called the chow hall. That's where your food is. And the other one was disbursement. That was where the money was. Now, when I was in Japan, this is in 1982, there was no wiring of money or anything like that. They had to have ships actually bring the money over, our checks or whatever, right? So there was a time where the money didn't get there. That meant people won't get paid for probably a month. People were having a fit. Now, one thing I did in understanding the game, there's this saying, you don't drill your well when you're thirsty. A lot of people try to have relationships when they need something. No, you start the relationship long before you need something. So because I knew you needed to know in the finance department and you needed to know people in the chow hall, because my job was going out into the field, doing airstrikes and stuff like that. So I would come in late at night and everything would be closed. So going back to, we didn't get paid, right? I went to disbursement. Now remember, I have no clout, I have no power whatsoever. I would see officers who had power cursing and, demanding that they get their money, and the, customer service like person would say, I'm sorry, sir, we can't help you. I'm sorry, sir. And it was true. They couldn't do anything. But me, I had resources. I would go to them and say, hey, is there anything you could do? Because I hear we're not getting paid. And it would be like, hey, triplet, take this form, fill it out, bring it back. Don't tell anybody. Don't talk about it. Don't take it anywhere. Bring the form back to me. And I would do it, and I would get money. Now, why was that? Because they were my resource. I've developed relationships with them. Figure out who you need to have relationships with in your organization. If you know that you have to have something sent out at a certain time, but everybody mail gets backed up, who should you have a relationship with? The mail clerks. They should know you that when you got to get something off, you can go down and say, hey, I know you're done taking mail for the day, but can you take mine? I got to get the sample over to the lab. And they're going to say, for you, yeah, we got you. But see, some of you don't build resources. You don't have anybody advocating for you. You don't even have colleagues that trust you. So you're kind of out there as an island on your own, and then you can't understand why working is so hard and arduous for you. Now, the last one is supporters. Now, what's interesting is that supporters doesn't necessarily have to be at your job. In fact, it usually is not. A supporter is someone who loves you despite yourself. And that is usually your family. That's your friends, your husband, your wife, your children. See, when you're trying to really move your career forward, you need someone who got your back. You need someone who will clean up, the house so you don't have to come home to dirty dishes. That's your kids. You need someone that when you come home will listen to you talk badly about how your boss sucks. That's your husband, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your friends. It's not your colleagues. It's not your advocates. It's not your resources. You never make the mistake of talking poorly about your company or your leadership to a colleague, advocate, or resource. And let me tell you why. Your colleague could be your colleague today, but it could be your competition tomorrow. So while you're talking poorly about things, they're taking note. And so when they're in an interview, and let me give you something less about your boss. Say you have problems at home, and maybe you're getting ready to go through a divorce and you have children, and you're sharing with your colleagues how bad things are at home because you trust them, right? So now it's time for one position, and you and that person are now competing for that position. And your boss asks that colleague, why should I give you that job? And your colleague says, well, as you know, I'm happily married and I don't have any children, so I can work long hours. While some people are going through a divorce, which is going to be disruptive, and they have children that, I don't think they're going to be able to work late. That's called sabotage. And it happens all the time in the workplace. And then you're shocked why you didn't get the job. So you do not use your colleagues as your supporter. You don't tell them your personal business. That's for your friends, your spouse, your girlfriend, your mama, your daddy, and all of them, right? So the reason you do not say bad things about your company or your boss to your advocate, because if I'm advocating for you and you tell me how I'm not really interested in staying in this company long, I'm not going to advocate. I'm not going to open doors for you. You're going to make me look bad when you take that position and don't keep it. So I'm not going to advocate for you. Keep that for your supporters. So you see how you have these people and you have to learn to compartmentalize. And many times we overlap them, not realizing that that will not help you win the game. Any questions? Just checking time. Okay, I have only 3 minutes left. Can I go to the next slide, or should I dump into questions now, Bright, since it's only 3 minutes?
I think you can finish up. We'll take it from there. You have more slides?
Okay. We'll do that next. We'll do those when we come back. I'll finish that. So
Okay.
I'm gonna open up questions. We have 3 minutes.
Well, the moderator would like to give a short summary of what you have said so far, and then we'll open up the question and answer time. I have collected the questions that have been written on the chat box. I will show them on the screen. You can see them, and then you start responding.
And let me say this, Bright, before we go to the moderator. What I share with you is laying the foundation. The whole concept of the unwritten rules and the game is so new to people that some people are very uncomfortable. So I felt like I needed to really lay a platform for you all. The next time we come together, we're going to be talking about some various rules that are often unbroken or often are broken. And I'm going to share another theory like cars to help you understand how to manage your career. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. Prof. Babarinde, are you there? Can you unmute yourself? Please try now and see.
Thank you very much. From the talk today,
Prof, sorry, I think you just mute one of your gadgets there. There is an echo coming.
All right. I want to thank Dr. Indigo for this very fascinating.
Prof, we are still getting the echo.
Okay.
So have it locally mute it, no, not on the Zoom.
Hello?
We still get it. Oh, we don't hear that one. I think it's the other one is on mute.
Hello?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate Dr. Indigo for this interesting and expository talk. In summary, she's been able to tell us what the unwritten rules are all about. And I think everybody has picked one thing or the other. And we've learned so much because sometimes we take it for granted that we can do anything just anyhow. But we have seen it. There are unwritten rules in every organization. And our presentation has reminded me of what happened to a particular colleague or individual that was invited for an interview. And he traveled by air over a long distance. It was at the point of interview that he was told that he could not be considered because he was over age. And that was not written anywhere. And the man had to travel back. So with all that we have learned today, we have seen the need for integrity, the need for relationship. And more importantly, she has told us that we need to start relationship before the relationship is needed. And I pray that we will inculcate all this into everything we do from today onward. Thank you very much.
Okay. Dr. Indigo, if you stop sharing, then I can share the questions.
So let me first say, this 3-part book series You can get it on Amazon. You can buy them individually, and they're also through Kindle for those of you who don't want to get the hard book, which might be costly to have it. Well, it's on Amazon, I don't know. But you can get these books, and if you read them before we meet up again, some of this stuff will make a lot more sense, because you got to understand, we're talking about 3 books, and I only have an hour to, I mean, there's so much depth that you're not getting, but I will do my very best, or as we say in Asia, my level best, to answer your questions.
Yeah, so you stop sharing. All right, do you see the questions? Prof, just mute yourself with the noises. I can read from here.
Oh, sorry.
All right, so the first question is sucking up to win favors part of the unwritten rules at work?
Okay, so let me just say this about that. Keep in mind, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to play the game. You don't have to suck up. But let me share this with you. You see these lips? See them? They're not big because I'm of the African diaspora. They're big because I kissed a lot of ass to go up that ladder. A lot. Not just like 1 or 2, a lot. But here's the thing. I chose who I would kiss. Chose. It's always a choice. And I also realized that what I wanted, I had to go through certain people to get it. I'm at a resort right now over in Zanzibar, and I'm working with the resort owner. Now, you would think because I'm retired, I don't have to put up with anything, right? Yeah, I do. She's my client. I ask her, what does she want? I ask her what's important to her. I work for her. So do I suck up to her? If that's the expression you want to use, that's very negative. Do I appease her? Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. You know why? Because I chose to have her as that client. So I need to do my level best to make sure she's happy. And see, some people, because they see it as sucking up or kissing ass, and they already told you, if you need a politically correct person, I'm not the one, because that's exactly what it's called, kissing ass. So if you're not willing to do that, so you want to work hard, work hard. But when I look at what I achieved and how I moved up, everything I did was based on integrity, my intuition, knowing whose I am. I'm very spiritual. So I made choices. That's what it's about. Being able to look at yourself and be okay with the choices that you made. But I don't call it sucking up. I don't necessarily call it kissing anybody's butt. I call it playing the game. And I look at now, I'm 57 and I'm retired because I was able to play the game so well that now I can step out of the game. Some people are still working hard because they don't understand the game. That's my answer and I'm sticking to it.
Thank you. I go to the next. How do you identify the unwritten rules?
So we'll talk a little bit about that the next time, but think about it like this. I can give you an unwritten rule that will not be relevant for where you live or where you work, because the rules are fluid. Rules are made up by the culture of the organization, by the leadership. I'll give you an example. My office was in DC, Washington, DC, but my corporate headquarters was down in Atlanta, Georgia. And so I came down to do a meeting with my employees, and I put my favorite red velvet cake in the kitchen area. So that afternoon, I went in to get my cake, and it was gone. And I was so upset. I was like, who ate my cake? And everybody was like, oh my gosh, she's upset. And I was like, yes, I'm upset. A couple of my long-term employees came over to me and said, let us holler at you for a second. And I said, what? Who ate my cake? And they said, you need to understand that an unwritten rule is that anything that goes in that room is everybody's. Anybody can eat it. I said, well, who made up that rule? We did. And I had to abide by them. Even though I'm the leader, even though I was the CEO, the group culturally made up the rule. So how do you identify the rules? One, you watch. Watch who is the golden cow, per se. Who is it that gets the prime projects? Who is it that everybody loves? Who is it that the manager pulls to the side and walks down the hallway talking to them? What are they doing that's causing them to be, the game player? So one is watching, asking questions, and to be honest, reading my 3-part book. It is so many people. If you just see the book and read it, you'll hear about people talked about how they've been promoted after a month. Some people come back and say, wow, I never saw that coming. So yeah, pay attention to your environment. Who does what? Who doesn't do things? Like, I'll give you a simple unwritten rule in different parts of America. When you go into a conference room and you're not sure who's in control, you're kind of new there, you don't sit down. You wait to see where people sit, because some people have certain positions where they sit all the time. The CEO may sit at one end of the table, they may sit at another, but you do not want to accidentally sit in the CEO spot or the vice president spot and things like that. So some of it is just standing back, watching, paying attention.
Thank you. The third one, is going against your values a part of playing the game?
Absolutely not. No, it's not. If playing the game means doing something that does not align with your spirit, you should not be doing it. No. But if you're okay with doing things that you can look at yourself and say, hey, this is just part of the game, then yes. Now, keep in mind, people's values are different, right? So what you value, someone else may not value. So that's why the game has to be you have to play your own game for the game and in the game. There's certain things I will not do. For instance, let's just keep it real. Let's talk about Hollywood. Let's talk about the music industry. Have you seen some of those videos? Booties all out, breast all out, or women and men, we hear about it now, it's starting to come out that they have to sleep with the producer to get certain roles, right? That's the game. That's the game in Hollywood. Everybody knows about that game. Now, does everyone play it? No. Some people will not do it. Would I do it? Absolutely not. As I was moving along in my career, do you think men hit on me? Yeah. I would have men come to me with a contract in one hand and their penis in the other. That's why I had a lot of women as my clients, because I didn't want to play that game. So you got to get into an organization where the game is for you to play, where you're going to be okay. But if you're someplace and you can see that game is going to devour you, don't stay. It's not where you're supposed to be. So no, and here's the other thing that you need to understand. What are your values? If you don't know your values, you'll lose them. But if you go in there knowing your values, you'll play them. You'll play to them. As a matter of fact, they'll be the thing that people seek. And I believe that's why when you look at the types of clients that I have, they were about integrity, honor, supporting the country. You know, it was all about America. So my background in the military played to that, those values.
Thank you. Go to the fourth one. Where does one draw the line based on morality or religion or culture among others when playing the game?
That's kind of like your values. I've never had any issues with morality. As a matter of fact, if you go and Google images and stuff, if you look at my earlier pictures, I used to always wear a ascot. I would wear scarves covering up everything. I would wear a suit. I wore my hair real short because I wanted to project an image of I don't cross the line. So I was known for being very astute about who I am and whose I am. So no, you don't cross, you know your line, because here's the thing. Once you draw a line and you allow yourself to cross it, people know they can buy you and do things to you. You know, this is something that I tell people all the time. Be careful of taking salaries that you know you don't deserve. Meaning, if you've been earning, say, 75,000 for what you do, 75 USD, and someone says, I want you to come join my company, I'm going to pay you 110. What are they going to ask you to do? And see what happens. That's a game that people play. They bring you in, paying you more than you're worth, because now when you start making more money, what are you going to start doing? You're going to buy a better house, bigger car, nicer clothes, put your kids in private school. Now, when I need you to do something that's going to cross the line, you're going to have a very difficult time saying no, because you just did some things that you can't afford to back out of. So I say, pay attention to yourself, to your career. Understand your own line.
Thank you. Number 5, how do you consider the so-called equal opportunity and diversity in view of the unwritten rules? Is this just hypocrisy?
I wouldn't say it's a hypocrisy. I would say that some organizations are trying their best to diversify and to value diversity, but I think diversity is crock. No, I don't buy off on diversity. What I buy off on is inclusion. Nobody cares that I have one of these, one of those, 5 of those. Meaning, in my organization, it didn't matter that I had one Hispanic, one older person, a woman, a younger person. No, that's diversity. What was important is that when I brought these people in, I included them. They're included. Inclusion. People of the African diaspora, stop trying to be a part of diversity. Diversity already exists. If you put 2 people in a room, there's diversity. If there's myself and another African woman of the diaspora, there's diversity, because she may be married while I'm divorced. She may have no children while I have children. You see, diversity already exists. Stop trying to go for diversity. Go for inclusion. That when you show up in an organization, ask them questions of how do you ensure that I'm included? Do you allow me to go to meetings? Do you allow me to represent the organization, the department? Do you allow me to work on projects? That's inclusion. Diversity doesn't mean anything It already exists. So the hypocrisy and the joke is on you if you go trying to have diversity. Look for inclusion. And that's in my second book, where I talk about from diversity to inclusion. See, diversity is this. You know, I have some of these, I have some of these. Inclusion is this. Okay?
Okay, the next one. I will believe that unwritten rules may differ in other countries. Aren't there differences in African countries and the US based on culture?
Yes. Remember when I first got started, I said there could be unwritten rules on the 7th floor that's different from the 14th floor. So unwritten rules, if we go back to preferential, biased, and all those other things, it's not about even countries. Yes, there are unwritten rules here that won't exist in America, but there's unwritten rules in one company that is totally different from another country. So unwritten rules are not about just culture. It's about people, belief system, leadership. So, excuse me. So it behooves you to understand the game where you live, where you work, and then from there, understand the leadership, then understand the managers, understand the staff. Then you'll understand the unwritten rules. So yes, unwritten rules differ everywhere.
Okay, so this is just a comment. The best connections are made on the golf course, as we used to say. And this was made when you were saying, take someone for a walk.
So I play golf. I have the cutest little outfits. I have my golf clubs. I took lessons because people said that people make deals by golf, right? Let me share this with you. I do believe that depending on what environment you're in, golf is good, but it's not necessary for every environment. So that is not an unwritten rule that transcends all organizations and all industries, right? This is what I learned about golf. When I'm on the golf course, I'm able to spend a whole day with someone. So I'm able to talk about a lot of things that I do and get to know them and so forth. But it doesn't mean I'm going to get a contract. What it does, it opens doors so that I can go Monday or Thursday, whatever, to their office to talk about how I can work with them. But it doesn't guarantee a contract. It just opens doors. What opens the door or seal the contract is that you make the impression. You know, you're able to discuss, you're able to communicate what you do, because you can take an introvert, put them on a golf course with someone, and it was just a day hitting balls. So it's not just about being on the golf course, it's what you bring, and it's more than just your clubs that they need to see.
Great. Thanks a lot. So the next one, some colleagues are distractions or distractors.
That would be true. That would be true. But it doesn't mean you can eliminate them or ignore them, because that distractor may become your boss one day. That distractor may become somebody you have to work closely with. So you make a concerted effort to have a relationship with them. Doesn't mean they have to come over to your house for dinner and all that kind of stuff, but you should walk with them for coffee, because that distractor doesn't have to be a distractor to you. They could become somebody that collaborates with you. And that takes effort. And a lot of us aren't willing to put in that kind of effort. You'd be surprised how many people don't like other people in the workplace. But that, let me give you an example. I was working with, you ever heard of EPA, Environmental Protection Agency? So they have a lot of scientists, engineers, a lot of STEM, right? So I was working with this group, predominantly women, and I was the consultant. And so I recommended to this group of women that they need to have a couple of more people on the team for us to do what we needed to do. Now, I can't pick people because I'm just a contractor. I'm just the consultant, but I recommended some people. And then another person on the team recommended someone. And this woman said, that beep, but she said the real word, I will never be on a team with her. And I was like, what happened? She said, 9 years ago, I was on a project and she stole it from me. 9 years ago. So I said this to say that you never know who's watching you. You never know what relationships will still be intact in an organization. The science, every environment or every industry is kind of small. We kind of see the same people after a while. And so you need to make sure that you create colleagues who will have good things to say about you. I have this saying that I may not be able to get everybody in my boat. You know, like, you know how you have a boat and you're getting ready to go off and sail, or everybody's gonna row. Well, I may not be able to get everybody in my boat, meaning going where I want you to go, but I make sure I don't have anybody on the side putting holes in my boat. What that means is that you may not have everybody on your team, everybody on board with you, but you don't want enemies. You don't want people out there trying to sabotage you. And if they're a distractor, what can you do to make sure that they're not a sabotager or a saboteur? Does that make sense?
It does. Thanks very much. Okay, so the seventh question, is there a possibility that the unwritten rules could be different based on individuals' demographic characteristics, example, gender, age, place of residence, etc., as well as personal goals?
Yes, the unwritten rules is based on all that. For instance, let's go with gender. How many times have you heard women say, oh, I hate working for women bosses? But you know, I never heard a man say, I hate working for men. Never heard it. I've never heard it. So in my organization, you won't find this in any employee handbook that says you will be frowned upon if you speak poorly about women leaders. I support women leaders. I support women empowerment. So based on my gender, I'm very preferential to women. I am. Now, some people will say, but wasn't most of your leadership team men? At the very top, it was mostly men, but not because I didn't want women, but because many women, and here's an unwritten rule I'm going to share with you, women. Many women shy away from finance. They shy away from operations. They shy away from the tough stuff in organizations. They go for the marketing. They go for sales, human resources, and things like that. So they don't get the strength and the experience under their belt to be the finance officers or the operation officers. So most of those people, not most, all those people in my organization were men. So an unwritten rule, women, I'm gonna tell you this, take those roles, those positions that scare you to death, develop yourself there, because those are the positions that will lead you to the higher stuff. You can't get to this until you get through some of that. But some of you get stuck right in here. So unwritten rule, take the stuff that scares you. Take the stuff that's going to stretch you.
Thank you. Well, sometimes it happens that it is quite impossible for you to leverage on these cars. Is this a sign that you are not at the right place?
I would have to agree. There are times where you would do everything you can to develop the relationships with your peers. No advocates are stepping forward to support you. Resources aren't coming your way, and so forth. But you have to ask yourself, if you leave that organization and it happens again, is it the organization or is it you? It's almost like when you date someone and you keep breaking up with guys. Now you don't have 5 guys in the last 5 years. You may have to ask yourself, because the only common denominator is you. So maybe it's not the men that's dogs. Maybe you ain't doing something right. So all I'm saying is, I agree that quite possibly you can't leverage it because it's the organization that's biased, preferential, racist, and all that stuff. But if you're finding that you're going to different organizations and you're not making things happen, you're going to have to stop and look at what are you doing or not doing.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Dr. Indigo. I think this has been quite an insightful session, and I see that everyone agrees. Everyone agrees because the comments we have received are quite appreciative of the session. So just to say that I share the last slide. We are grateful, Dr. Indigo, for this introductory session. When I announce this, I promise people you must not miss this. You must not miss this. And from your talk, you have converted some people to join the seminar. Somebody wrote this is her first time of joining, and now she's magneted to to what we're doing here. So it's great. It's great. Please don't miss the next session, which I want to show here, which will come up on the 22nd of August. And as you see here, it is the unwritten rules continue. Dr. Indigo is going to continue on this discussion. There were some other questions that came up while she was answering the questions. Please keep them, and we will bring them up on the 22nd, and she will answer those questions. So I think I will stop here, and please, you can open your camera and everybody join me to appreciate Dr. Indigo for this quite insightful seminar this evening. Open your camera and please let's appreciate her. Dr. Indigo, thanks very much.
My pleasure. Bye, everyone.
Okay, and before you go, Eman has been sending the evaluation form. Please, yes, we're all happy with this session. We still want you to evaluate the session, give us your suggestions to improve for next and for future sessions. As the tradition is, Eman likes taking pictures, so I think she wants to take pictures of those who are around. So open your camera and give her a big smile, and then we can conclude for the day. And if this is your first time, all our seminar series are put on our YouTube channel, and we have shared the link on the chat box. So if you came late, if you want to watch this over again, we'll have them on the YouTube channel by tomorrow. And Dr. Indigo, is it right to say now that you're fully bread and butter African now?
So I will always be African. You know, there's this saying that some people are born in Africa, which makes them African. Some people are this, which makes them African. And then some people are African by choice.
Mhm.
So I'm 2 out of 3. And so I'm doing my level best to stay here.
Yeah.
And I will always be an American. I will always wave my flag. So I'm an African American.
Well, it's good to hear that you said you are in paradise.
I am.
So with Africa will always win.
You know, I don't know if you've heard me say this before. Family was like, so what is it like there? And I said, well, if you believe in heaven and you die and you get up to heaven and your room's not ready, he's going to send you here to Zanzibar. This is God's waiting room.
That's great. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone, and have a good evening. Have a good evening. Great week for you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. All right. Okay, man. We'll be in touch during the week. Prof. Babarinde, thanks very much for this evening. Very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.